For decades since the independence, the Indian Administrative Service has been the most prestigious and coveted of the country's nearly 24 civil services. Be it the positions of district magistrates or chief secretaries in the states or joint secretaries and secretaries at the centre, the IAS has had a near hegemony over the most important administrative positions. However, after 10 years in power, the Narendra Modi government has decisively broken that dominance. According to data obtained by ThePrint under the RTI Act, of the 236 officers serving as joint secretaries, once considered the most important policy-making positions at the centre, only 80 are IAS officers. In other words, just over 33% of joint secretaries currently serving in the central government belong to the IAS. This, civil servants say, is a major departure from the older convention when IAS officers completely dominated joint secretary ranks. The numbers are changing, albeit slowly, even at the level of additional secretaries, hierarchically the second highest rank at the centre. While officers anecdotally say that until 10 years ago, it would have been unimaginable to even find 2 or 3 non-IAS officers posted as additional secretaries, currently 33% of the additional secretaries in the centre, that is 37 of the 112, belong to services other than the IAS. However, as the representation of non-IAS officers at the joint secretary level goes up, the numbers at the topmost levels, that is the additional secretaries and secretaries, too will keep changing gradually. As a senior IAS officer serving in one of the states told ThePrint, we are staring at a situation where even 5 years down the line, the central bureaucracy will look very different from what it did in the past. Even now, the numbers point towards a drastic change in the government. From the Modi government's attempt to break the dominance of the IAS to the IAS officers' own unwillingness to come to the centre, civil servants attribute the shift to a number of factors. Yet, one thing is clear. After 10 years of the Modi government, being an IAS officer is no longer a guarantee of rising to the top in the bureaucracy. To begin with, IAS officers attribute the change to a deliberate attempt under the Modi government to cut the IAS to size. When the Modi government came to power at the centre, the IAS was seen as the vestige of the older system that this government wanted to dismantle, said a retired officer who requested anonymity. He further said, therefore, conscious attempts were made to ensure more and more officers from the railways, from the revenue, accounts, etc. are impanelled. He says that we saw this coming for a long time. Another retired officer who also requested anonymity said that this government has had an attitude of suspicion towards IAS officers who work both with the central and the state governments. He said, if an officer is coming from West Bengal, for instance, there will be doubts on whether he is loyal to the West Bengal government. IAS officers, by definition, he said, have political flexibility, unlike officers of the railways, revenues and other services who report to the centre from the beginning to the end of their careers. They, he said, are entirely creatures of the centre, so it is easier for the government to get them to do their bidding. The Modi dispensation skepticism towards IAS officers is not entirely speculative. In 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi criticized the Babu culture on the floor of the parliament for being a separate power. Listen in to what the Prime Minister said in 2021.
सब कुछ बाबू ही करेंगे. आईएएस बन गया मतलब वो फर्टिलाइजर का कारखाना भी चलाएगा. आईएएस हो गया तो वो केमिकल का कारखाना भी चलाएगा. आईएएस हो गया वो हवाई जहाज भी चलाएगा. ये कौन सी बड़ी ताकत बना के रख दी है हमने. बाबुओं के हाथ में देश दे करके हम क्या करने वाले हैं. हमारे बाबू भी तो देश के हैं, तो देश का नौजवान भी तो देश का है.
The government's lateral entry reform too has been seen as this very attempt to break the monopoly of the IAS officers, often seen as being generalists in administrative positions. However, some officers argue that an equally important factor behind the dramatic shift in the IAS's fortune under the Modi government is the officers' own reluctance to come to the centre. KBS Sidhu, who is a retired IAS officer, says that this in fact is the biggest reason, and he attributes the officers' reluctance to their own disempowerment. Under this government, he said, many IAS officers feel disempowered because they feel all the decision-making is concentrated at the top. The position of the Joint Secretary has become a little meaningless in comparison to what it used to be 10 years ago, when all the policy making and even intellectual argumentation over policies used to happen at this level, he said. In such a situation, an IAS officer thinks it is better to be in the state itself, Sidhu added. His point is actually corroborated by several letters that have been written by the centre to state governments to send IAS officers on deputation. As of last year, the Department of Personnel and Training informed a parliamentary panel that only 442 IAS officers were working with the centre. This is against the required strength of 1,469 officers. As centre-state relations have plummeted in the last few years, the bureaucracy has become completely politicized, one of the officers quoted above said. States don't want to relieve their officers for central deputation either. In a controversial attempt to circumvent this problem, the centre had proposed an amendment to the All India Service Rules in 2022. This would have done away with the no objection clearance from the state government which an officer needs before coming to the centre on deputation. The proposal triggered a political storm and was subsequently put in cold storage. But for now, the situation remains the same. Whether it is the IAS officers' own reluctance or the Modi government's deliberate attempt to cut them to size, one thing is clear. The IAS no longer run the Modi-led central government in India.